What's up everyone and welcome to another Warframe video. The topic of today's video, some upcoming changes to Arbitrations game mode and whether or not they actually combat the problems of the game mode. So the specific post is relating to players dying in Arbitrations and then not wanting to stick around watching everyone else play instead of playing themselves. So they leave, and if they're the host, they cause a number of host migration issues. Now when a player dies, they drop a support tower on their body. Enemies will start dropping these, I guess, tokens, for the want of a better word, that charge up the tower and can revive that player. These tokens are going to put a debuff on the player, similar to the financial stress of the index points, and that weakens the player carrying them until they're deposited. As a result of the perceived decrease in difficulty, because you can now revive your teammates, Arbitrations are going to scale in the same way normal missions do instead of slower like they do currently. So I'll be honest, I actually hate this idea. I completely understand that the host migration stuff is an issue, but this is completely the wrong way of going about it. Realistically, if someone died, it's because they're on a frame that's not suited for the game mode, or is just far too squishy to begin with, and all that's going to end up happening again is you're going to be reviving them again. And again, and again. Especially since those things that the enemies are going to be dropping, they actively punish a player for not reviving someone. In a high level mission where survivability is key, hitting player survivability for not reviving a player is so counterproductive, it's unreal. Making that person that's already a burden on the team, by not being on a frame that's survivable enough, now they're even more of a burden because not only have you died because of it, you're now dragging the rest of the team down as well, who get their option to not revive you removed, but they get punished for it. And as a result of this change to making the mode quote-unquote easier, the scaling is going to change from the current slower scaling to the way the scaling works for the rest of the game, as I said before. Arbitrations are slow. They are dull, and they feel unrewarding because their reward levels are twice that of a normal mission. So in survival, 10 minutes instead of 5, 2 waves of interception, and so on and so on. While rewards themselves are they're alright actually. You've got stuff like adaptation in there, you've got a lot of endo. The problem is that it just makes the missions feel like such a slog instead of a high level rush like they could have been. The problem is that we're going to have to deal with Warframe's quite frankly broken enemy scaling, which is going to further slow down these missions as the time to kill goes up, and that makes them even more of a slog. So you have a game mode that already bores people because of its pace. In the footage in the background you can see like our Chroma is saying that he's falling asleep, and that's going to get slower and slower as enemy levels go up. It's so counterproductive. Not to mention it's going to mean that you can't stay in a mission as long. In the current thing you might have been able to stay for a mission for like an hour, but with the scaling being higher than it is now, let's say for argument's sake, now you can only stay for 30 minutes. So that's half the rewards you could potentially previously get, and let's be real, that's only 6 rotations to begin with, that's 6 lots of rewards. So let's take a look at that in conjunction with the current rewards we have. Not even talking about the ones that are still to come, which we don't know a huge amount of. We know Arcwing ribbons are coming for whatever reason, because apparently we need to kill the orbs a little bit quicker, but hey. Let's say right now though, we've got 2 of them that require 20 Vitus Essence. You get 1 per reward rotation. So in a survival, if you can stay for an hour, you will get 6 per hour, for example. To get the 40 Vitus you need for the top 2 rewards, that's 400 minutes of survival, or 40 individual rotations. So say for example you could only stay in a mission for like half of the time you used to because of the new scaling. That's now only 3 per alert, which you only get 1 of per hour. Defense is even slower. In fact, really, unless it's excavation, interception, or infested salvage, they're just not worth doing. And then we have the arbitration drones. Gonna go on a bit of a little rant here, but these drones are not difficulty. They do not bring difficulty. They are simply bull of the highest order. They completely defeat the point of the game mode. Yes, let's have drones make everything around them invincible in a game mode that's buffing the power strength of specific frames. The frames that take that power strength buff get no benefit because the drone is immune to damaging abilities, and so is everything they're linked to. So that removes nuke frames from the equation. The drones are also immune to crowd control, and so is everything they touch. So frames that need CC to survive are taken out the equation now too. So what are you left with? All your defensive frames, stuff with damage reduction, Gara, Mesa, Inaros, Chroma, that sort of thing. And that's about it. So our quote-unquote difficulty modifier actually makes almost everything irrelevant outside of your weapons. Even if crowd control, like honestly, if crowd control had worked here, you could have had ESO for damage frames because CC is completely pointless there. And arbitrations could have been where CC could actually thrive. But no, let's just remove the biggest part of what makes Warframe cool. Almost every single ability outside of your defensive ones. And then the one thing that's very specific to me, and something I complained about at the time, stop making everything red. I am red-green colorblind, I cannot see the aura around the enemies, and I cannot see the link to the drone. I basically have to just fire around with a weapon like my Catch Moon with a big AoE, and hope I'd killed the drone by accident. That is not fun. Imagine if you had something that affected you, like, that affected the way you were able to do something, and you were constantly reminded of that, over and over and over again. Hey, by the way, you can't see this. Hey, by the way, you can't see this. That is how these arbitrations feel to me, and it means because of that, I feel absolutely bloody useless in the mission. Like, despite being an actual decent player, because of this, I'm a complete detriment to my team. I feel awful every single time. A mix between sadness that I'm actually not allowed to enjoy something, and just pure anger that despite having provided feedback about colorblind stuff for years, that it is ignored, that my feedback on this just simply doesn't matter. I just have to suck it up and feel like shit for being a burden on my teammates for something I can do nothing about. People think that it's just about the game being harder for me because of something like this. But nobody thinks about how it actually makes people feel to be consistently and constantly reminded about this. Because I tell you, it sucks big time. Now, I apologise. I don't let myself get worked up like that often, but it's something I've been banging my head about with colorblindness and Warframe for years. And it just doesn't feel like I get anywhere at all. But, you know, let's bring it back to the game mode itself. The adding in of the revive, making enemies scale faster, is not the answer and is not going to help this game mode. The game mode itself was designed, honestly, it was a quick and easy mode in the middle of a content drought, with as little dev time as actually possible. The problem is, it needs rebuilding from the ground up. It doesn't provide challenge, it doesn't give high-end players something to do. When you have a game mode that nullifies most players' builds, that they spent many forma on, that is not providing endgame players anything. It's just showing that they wasted their forma and their time formulating actual builds because they mean nothing. Not to mention that the strength buff from the alert itself is utterly pointless because outside of Chroma you're never going to get to use it. Arbitrations, honestly, were terrible when they released, and even with this change, are still going to be terrible. So just let me know in the comments below what you think about it, what you think of the changes, and what you think about arbitrations in general. I'd be very interested to hear your feedback. But for now, many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.